Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and we're just jumping right into this one. No intro, nothing special, nada. Because, we just need to talk about this. This is why we're going to be talking about this week. This Los Angeles Times headline says, "I'm really struggling. Facing pay cuts, some ride-hailing drivers prepare to strike." And this article highlights why we're hearing more and more about strikes. Strikes that I'm ultimately not convinced will really do a lot. Especially, unfortunately, Monday's strike. The one that's going to last a whole day and have about 2,000 to 3,000 people striking. Maybe. I mean, that's not enough. But we're going to look at this article because this article, I think, shows the real human frustrations and emotions that many of you are feeling right now. And it also shows the unfortunate fallacy of why Uber is not going to be taking you seriously anytime soon. So let's look at this. Frustrations are mounting among some Uber and Lyft drivers about wage and treatment. But because ride-hailing drivers are classified as independent contractors instead of employees, unionizing, a common way for discontented workers to bring about change, is something of a non-starter. So in a parking lot outside Los Angeles International Airport where Uber and Lyft drivers wait for ride requests, some ride-hailing workers are charting their own course. It's there the drivers are trying to recruit their colleges to protest pay cuts by Uber last week that slashed per mile pay from 80 cents to 60 cents in Los Angeles County and parts of Orange County. They are planning to strike Monday, refusing to drive for both Uber and Lyft, in a move they hope will mark an early step in a broader push for higher wages. Well, I will say this. It's a step, and a step is always a step. I mean, getting out and actually protesting, that is step one, but, well, we'll continue. It's not the first attempt by drivers to stage a strike against Uber and Lyft. Many of the same drivers organized a similar protest at LAX in 2017. The ride-hailing workers, this time led by a group called Rideshare Drivers United, say past strikes have lacked cohesive strategy and planning, ultimately leading to disparate demands and low attendance. Unfortunately, I'm thinking this is going to be a very similar situation. Part of the problem, they say, is that the drivers' fight has long fixated on their classification of independent contractors, a battle that has so far proved fruitless. Though they would still prefer to be classified as employees, they hope they can unite a broader swath of the workforce by focusing first on pay. Probably a good idea. "That's what we need and the best way to get there quickly," said Nicole Moore, a part-time Uber driver who has become one of a handful of de facto leaders in the movement. "There is no doubt that if we are employees, we have the right to be protected by national laws that provide a pathway to organizing and giving us a right to a contract at the end of our fight." Now, of course, already from the get-go, technically you're independent contractors. None of us are employees at Uber, but that should be challenged a little bit more, especially with recent developments where they're penalizing you for using the destination filter, and that should be enough to challenge them again. So among all the other things, we've been challenging them on a long time, but yeah, you're still independent contractor, so you're not protected by law, and that is why a lot of drivers attempted to fight this in court first. But we all know how that happened. Every single time, the companies just settled. They got a couple $100, and if that, and then they moved on. So there's still that lawsuit that Uber settled for $20 million. Well, I'll get to that in a moment. We'll get that in a moment. But let's see here. "But drivers need gas in the car so we can actually pay our rent and put food on the table in our family." The group, which Moore said has grown from 200 in 2017 to about 3,000, is demanding Uber increase fares 25%. Yeah, asking for way too little, but whatever. "For these rates, I might be working at the Amazon warehouse," she said. Uber says it altered the rates because, and that, by the way, is a good point. This wasn't exactly a rate deduction. I was mistaken when I said that. It is an adjustment because they did raise the rates on the time and they dropped them for mileage. They shouldn't have dropped anything in my opinion, but it is a you know, whatever. They tweaked it. That's the bottom line. Anyway, they altered the pay scale because it did not have the intended impact. The company contends other changes, including a higher permanent rate and new driver promotions, will improve take-home pay. It would also improve take-home pay if you just raise the rates, but whatever. You can expect average driver earnings in LA to be comparable with other rideshare opportunities and pre-September average earnings, Uber wrote in an email to drivers, which is, of course, a very deceptive thing to say because the only competition is Lyft. Let's face it, it's Lyft. So, you know, and Lyft does what Uber does, so of course it's going to be comparable. Although Lyft hasn't followed Uber's recent rate cuts in Los Angeles, drivers are planning a 24-hour strike against both companies because each has already slashed fares to levels some consider untenable. And yeah, it's good to throw Lyft in there as well because, let's face it, Lyft is just going to do this as well. So you might as well include them in it. Sinakon Kyodora, I hope I said that right, drives for Lyft using a vehicle he rented from the company. Kadora became homeless in September after pouring money into building his own app and took up driving for Lyft to get himself on his feet. He has resorted to paying $25 a night to stay at a local Korean spa that allows overnight guests, but his earnings on Lyft aren't always enough to cover that fee in addition to the $240 weekly payment for the car and cost of gas. On those nights, his car doubles as his home. I'm not the only one, he says. I'm really struggling, but I feel like it's time for us to humanize our struggle. Let people know what's really going on with us as we're driving for Lyft and Uber, trying to survive, and this is what is happening to us. The Uber and Lyft have both made efforts to appease current drivers and recruit new ones. I bet they have. Protests and strikes have so far done little to move wages. Of course it happened. With both companies planning initial public offerings, the firms have even more reason to focus on cutting costs. Another obstacle for the demonstrators is organizing an inherently disorganized workforce. And this is where we're getting to the real meat of the article. Because Uber and Lyft drivers only interact with the company through apps, there's no one place where they can spread the word and no picket line where they can rally their cause. In fact, I want to even point out, I don't know if anyone remembers these. I definitely remember them. But Lyft, not Uber so much, but Lyft used to have driver appreciation days where you could go to like a park and you get free pizza or hot dogs, and you'd get like a t-shirt. It'd be like a little appreciation day. I don't think they've done one of those in a very, very long time, and I think one of the reasons is because you don't want protesters to show up, and you don't want drivers who might not be aware of all that's going on and how angry other drivers really are to be comparing notes. I mean, it was a fun thing to do when everyone was, having a fun time doing this. Heck, I was driving when they were doing these. But now you get a bunch of drivers together, they start comparing notes, they get really pissed. And then they start realizing they're not the only ones, might inspire them to actually do something. So I don't think they do that anymore for that reason. And of course, there's no benefit to it. I kind of miss those. My favorite one actually was when they did like the car wash for like $1. That was awesome. But anyway, that was also the first video Katie was in, actually. Some drivers and many passengers might not even realize a strike is underway on March 25th. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to get in your Uber or Lyft and go like, so what's going on today? Oh, there's an Uber and Lyft strike today. It's like, there is? Doesn't seem like there's one because, you came and picked me up. Quote, I mean, we can't deliver a financial blow that's going to wound them meaningfully, said Keith Erbel, a full-time Uber driver. But we can certainly get their attention. The realization they might have is that this isn't drivers getting together in a crunch to do one strike and go on their separate ways. This is an expanding, growing organization that's been using this action and our previous action to simultaneously grow the membership. And that might actually be the most sensible thing he's said. You start small, and you do it mainly to get attention from the media, the newspapers, which clearly we're reading it from the Los Angeles Times, and you get more members, and then you work on bigger strikes and more prolonged strikes. So that makes a lot of sense. But all these people who are hoping that, hey, you're going to strike one day, not going to work. You're going to need to strike again and again, and then at one point, you're just going to have to stop driving altogether. as part of a long-term strike. You turn off the app until the rates go up or certain demands are met. We'll put it that way. Driver victories in New York City, where a local regulator has imposed a minimum wage for Uber and Lyft contractors, have given the organizers hope. Well, don't get too much hope. I know someone who drives professionally for Uber and Lyft in New York, and he has definitely hammered in that it's not a minimum wage and it doesn't do what you think it does. They say there has been interest from drivers in San Diego and Washington, D.C. about starting their own chapters. Rideshare Drivers United organized received support, including about $500 in donations to help cover any costs related to the strike from a group of about 200 traditional unions at a recent meeting at the Los Angeles County Labor Federation. While the organizers who want to eventually secure a place among the established unions, the focus now is on spreading the word among a diffuse workforce. This is about person-to-person organizing, Moore said. Okay, so that's actually not the worst thing I've heard. One method is through an app they've built that matches organizers with drivers who have expressed interest in their campaign. Organizers discuss drivers' concerns, promote the strike, and identify potential leaders. Keodara, who can't afford to take any time off from driving, said it allows him to stay involved. So here's the thing. Obviously, this is not fun to read when you read about people like Keodara and I don't know how to pronounce the person's name. And of course, all the comments I read below on this channel every day. It's not fun to read those things, but you also have to be very realistic here. I get really tired when people tell me, hey, strike for a day, that'll show Uber. You know, there are a lot of strikes in a day. It has not shown Uber anything or Lyft. They don't care. You really are not a concern to them. If you want to protest, you've got to protest smarter. One of the things that I recommended you do, if you felt compelled to do this, by the way, because I don't like to tell people how to vote, but they wrote to Uber drivers in Atlanta, Georgia, because they are voting on a tax increase for Uber and Lyft. And they were trying to encourage their drivers to tell them not to pass any tax increases. And I said, you know what? You have a lot of drivers who are really pissed off right now. Go right to the center and say you do encourage the tax hike. Stick it to Uber. Show them that you can weaponize against them. That lawsuit I was talking about, the one that Uber settled for $20 million, find out who the judge is. Everyone write him letters, emails, and say unequivocally, do not sign this settlement. It's not fair. Force Uber to come back with a higher amount. Do it. And heck, I mean, it's too late to write to the lawyer who represents them, but if the judge then rejects that, then everyone writes to the lawyer, and it's like, don't you dare settle for anything less than $2 billion or some crazy amount of money that, you know, would either force Uber to change the rule so that officially this isn't a problem anymore, because Uber at that point would probably, and I don't know if 2 billion is too low, it might be but basically don't accept any settlements. Give them like this extreme number that there's no way they would want to reach. And then Uber would say, okay, we'll give you 10 million and we'll make these changes. Because that's what you ultimately want. You want Uber to make the changes. And they don't make the changes when they settle. Now, here's the thing. I am a little encouraged by what Keith said, that he acknowledges they are not going to deliver a financial blow. But he wants to get their attention. More importantly, he wants to get other drivers' attentions. And that's actually a smart way to do it. And that's why I wanted to talk about this article. Because the concerns from the drivers that they talked to in this article are very real. The drivers are feeling the pinch. They are very much feeling the pinch. And that's why we're hearing more and more talks about strikes. I am actually aware of some strikes that some of these media conglomerates are not aware of. And I'm not going to talk about them here because one of the points of these strikes are kind of surprise in nature. But if they actually do what they say they're going to do, it will get the media's attention, and it's going to not look good for Uber. And here's the thing, when drivers feel pinched, when they're sleeping in cars, when they can't make their payments, they start getting desperate. And desperate people become dangerous. And dangerous people become unpredictable. And that's why you're seeing more and more stories like this. And I'm glad the media is finally catching on to it. I mean, geez, I've been talking about this for how many years now? But hey, it's nice for them to finally really, truly be listening. So here's the thing. Strike on Monday. It's probably not going to result in anything happening. But if they can convince another few thousand people to join the cause, then the next time maybe they can pick up a couple thousand more. Who knows? And by the time the IPO comes, hey, it's a nice thought. I don't know if it's actually going to happen. In fact, I've gotten very cynical about strikes and protests, even though this is completely illegitimate. So anyway, that's where we're going to leave it. What do you folks think? Are you going to participate in the strike? Are you even aware of the strikes? Would you be willing to go find, like, for example, just call Uber drivers, do like 1 mile rides and hand them flyers or something like that? You know, would you be willing to do that? Would you want to talk to the media? I'd love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.